Hi guys, welcome back. I'm preparing a tutorial for just giving you some tips about improving your images through photo editing softwares. I picked up Photoshop because it's probably not necessarily the best, but the most common one. But basically these kind of tips will be valid even if you're using GIMP, which is a freeware you can just download for Macs or PCs for free. Also, if you have Lightroom or eventually if you have iPhoto on your Mac. Basically, as I said you in some of the introductory classes we had together, we can basically improve our pictures using the traditional photographic tools that were valid also for the analog darkroom. So we're not just doing, selecting pictures using too many layers. We are working for the moment on JPEG files, and we will pop up the contrast, eventually the colors, crop the images, transforming a color image in black and white. So we are going to show some of the simple basic tools that we can play with in improving our pictures. There's a picture I took many years ago. It's analog, but whatever, if you have a traditional digital, it's just fine. And as you see, it's kind of dark. One of the first thing normally we do a reframe with the cropping, the trim tool. Is the second picture. You just select the area that you want to crop, and then we do another kind of an intervention, which is a very simple and classic. Due to the fact that the picture was rather dark, I just played with brightness and contrast. You will find these on image adjustments. You just pick up image on the menu bar, the upper one, image, you select adjustment and go for the brightness and contrast. I popped up the brightness a little bit and more the contrast. And this is basically the result that you will have compared to the previous one, which was a bit darker. Then there is another way, a little more efficient and more controlled than playing simply with the brightness and contrast, is still go in the mode adjustments and select the levels. Then you select the levels. Here's the next screenshot where you will see the level diagram. After that, you just I make these adjustments for this specific picture that you will see now. And I just brought up the highlights, which is the right cursor, and just a little bit the midtones. As you see on the left, there is also the darker areas, the black tones, that I didn't touch in this case. And the final result is this picture that if you will go back and compare with the beginning one, you'll see is a little more vivid in colors, more saturated, probably easier to read in terms of details. Other tools that we may use that were typical of the darkroom work are, for example, these dodge, and underneath you will find the burn tool. Dodging and burning were classic darkroom tools where you can just select specific areas of the picture and subtract with the dodging density or add density with the burning tool. Okay, can go up and select the dimensions of the palette and the kind of smoother or sharper palettes for just subtracting light where you have too many dark areas, and you can do locally. In this case, I just dodged the lower part of the picture where you have all the rice sprouts, and they're looking like these, just emphasize a little more brighter. I just went with a palette over the whole surface. Don't over dodge, otherwise we'll show these kind of round circles on your picture. So always use not too much density and control until it doesn't show up. Okay, the burn tool, which is next screen, is just underneath and is just opposite as the dodging tool. So the burn tool helps you to darken up certain highlights, certain areas where you have too many bright and not enough detail. Same as for dodging, don't overburning, because otherwise it will show up and it will look artificial. So the great thing when playing with these kind of digital softwares is that if you don't like, just go back. It will lose maybe some time, but you won't lose money or any other thing. You can just always recover your picture. Whenever you're working, remember just to make a copy picture, a sample picture, where you can just save the original image and just work on a copy image, and then give a different file name, so you'll have an original and a modified one at the end of the process. So this is just the effect of the slide. I mean, I'll go back for a second, and you'll see that there is the top of the central palm leaf, which is a bit too bright. I just intervene with some burning, and this is the result, is more balanced and is not, that flashy. Okay? The last tip about this picture that you can do, and this is valid in the process for most of the files you're working with, is my personal suggestion. At the end, do a little bit of sharpening, especially if you're working with digital file. Because they will miss some overall micro contrast that is a peculiar quality of most of the digital sensors. So my tip is just to do, at the end, just select filters, go and sharpen, and you will see that will open up a series of different kind of filters. The one I use the most is a Smart Sharpen. My personal suggestion is never to exceed 160%, and don't exceed 30 up to 50 of radius. Okay, so these will give some noise reduction. Always play with the noise reduction. Don't exceed 80%. And this normally works finally. The other possibility is just to use the unsharp mask. Even here, don't exceed certain kind of figures, for my personal opinion. And I never exceed 80% for the sharpen mask. Okay? And at this point, your file is just set and recorded. Then I have a few other examples. This is just a small waterfall surrounded by musk and lichens. And first of all, you see is a little unstraight. First, I use the cropping tool for straightening it up. And you see it's better, more natural. Then I work with another possibility. You just go in the image adjustment, then select shadows and highlights, you will have this kind of menu appearing up to you and showing these palette where you can just work on the shadow amounts, on the tone and radius of the shadows. Then you can work on the highlights, and again the amount of the highlights, the tone and the radius, adjustment of the color and the midtones. Okay, play with this kind of tool in the way that I just said. The final result is these, and if you compare with the original picture where we started from, you see is more balanced. I just brought up some of the mid-tone areas. The green details are more defined, and the overall picture improved with this kind of adjustment. Just play with it, see how you can just balance your picture. Again, as I said, you don't risk anything, so just follow these directions. There's another option you may have, is whenever you have a picture and you would like to transform into a black and white. A black and white, I mean, you have different options. The Photoshop is a huge and even complicated software. We will use only some of the tools. Just again, go in image adjustment, select black and white. There's a pop-up that will come up, and it's default. You see all the different kind of color, greens, reds, yellow, blues, cyans, magentas. Then you select the preset green filter. For example, I just selected green filter. Green filter works in the midtones mainly and is very balanced. Of course, if you have greenery, is very efficient. Yellow and red works also in the midtones, but even in the highlights create a harsher contrast, while the blue just decrease the contrast and emphasize the dark area. What I did, basically, I just popped up the greens, slightly the yellows and the reds, and basically I didn't touch the others. And final result is these. You see the hand is lighter, there is a little more contrast, the smoke of the incense is more evident, and this is a way, of course, you can tune in the way you like the most. And what I will have to say, just good job, make a good job. And now you have to deal with your food and markets assignments. I already received one project, so I'm waiting for next projects to come, and then I will post on YouTube my feedback about your pictures one by one. Okay? Stay safe. A big hug from Florence for this weird situation we're leaving, but just I hope that you are all fine at home, and so stay safe, and a big virtual hug. Ciao.